We welcome you today to the second of our Epiphany World Mission, and I should say mission, Sunday school classes. I hate the pandemic, but we do know how to connect in spite of all of that. So I'm very grateful to Sarah and to Margaret and to the people at the church, Andrew, who are making this possible. We're delighted today to have Julie Tomberlin with us. She is the coordinator of the Unity Women's Desk, having come to that position, I think in 2018, Julie, about that time, November. She comes with a lot of wonderful credentials. I don't know how she ever got to Texas, and that's another story, but she got her at the University of Texas. And then she came home to North Carolina getting her doctorate in communication, I think in language at Carolina, which we could talk about that for another session. She's done wonderful things that I know about. She's worked with immigrants and refugees and worked in English as a second language with people who are very much in need of that. She has 3 wonderful sons that are very dear to me too. And we all go to come and worship. And so I get to see them when they're back in town. Julie, would you introduce Muriel to us? I met Muriel at one of the consultations, and this we can do because we have Zoom today. Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. I'm really happy to be with you today, especially for your Diversity and Inclusion Month. The UWD is all about diversity and inclusion, so this is wonderful. I'd like to introduce Muriel Held. She is our advisory board member for Latin America, Caribbean region. And her last name, Held, in German means hero. I assume it does in Dutch as well, but she is one of my heroes. She is full of passion and love for Christ and the church. And she also has just an amazing experience in her life. She's a famous ornithologist in Suriname. I think she was the first PhD in bird studies in Suriname, or graduate studies. And then she also worked as a technical advisor for the president's wife in Suriname. So she has traveled the world in boots and heels. And she just brings a whole lot to our organization. So Muriel, you want to say hi? And I asked her if she would read the daily text for us today in one of the many languages they speak in Suriname.
Oh, I have to go get it. 1 second.
She sounds like a Suriname.
Muriel's a powerhouse. She gets things done. So I was just talking to Muriel about something else and mentioned that we were having this class today. And she said, oh, can I come? And I said, why, yes. Would you like to speak? So here she is.
Yes, and let me correct one thing. I don't have a PhD. I have something like a master in education, but I had an, how do you call it? Studies after, which you do after your study in the US, from the US Fish and Wildlife Service and the Canadian Wildlife Service on birds, twice in the US. And I did major in ornithology, in game birds for the hunters among you. And this is our day buku, daily text in Sranang Tongo. And that is a lingua franca, which is based on English because of our, which developed in our colonial times when we were an English colony. The daily text of today, 12th of January, we have a text for the week that is different from the text from the American daily text. What is today? 16, yeah. Today is the second Sunday after Epiphany. Today, na tu sondu baka Epiphany. Tu sonde baka Epiphany. Fudi embu ati bigi pasa marki, meki wi alamala kisi a one blessing baka atrawa. And that comes from John 1st, verse 16. John 1st, verse 16. And the daily text, suku fu masra, suku attractifu en, tan suku en doro doro. Suku fu masra, suku attractifu en, tan suku en doro doro. Psalm, that I'll do in Dutch, 105, verse 4. Psalm 105, verse 4. Asma di etan begi e kisi. Asma di etan suku e feni. En asma di etan nakidoro e opo di en. Asma di etan begi e kisi. Asma di etan suku e feni. En asma di etan naki doro e opo gi en. Dati ek mopo na Lucas 11, verse 10. And then we have a song. We have the first 1 and 5 of a song. Mi masra, temi denasari, and tewa hebi mitimi, anona yumi musubari, anona yumi musukrei, mi firi mi benaki futu, mi sabi taki mi de, mi do foto. That is the first verse, and the second, one word tomorrow mi eteki, ke dati switi na mi tu. You sref bendetaki, you suku, you safeni tu, you begi, true, you sakisi, you nakidoro, you misi. And the song reflects the daily text that if we have problems, if we are sad, or whatever is happening in our life, we can go to the Lord. If we call on him, he will answer. If we look for him, we will find him. If we knock on his door, he will open up. Thank you. Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you, Muriel. So this morning, what we'd like to do, I'm going to do just a very brief overview of the Unity Women's Desk. I think most of you are familiar with it, but I never know if there's someone out there who hasn't heard yet what it is that we do. And then we are really this year focusing on leadership development for our volunteers around the world, for our coordinators and all the different provinces. So we are going to highlight some of the things we're doing for leadership development in 2 countries of the Latin America, Caribbean region. So we're going to focus on Suriname and then also on Honduras, just what the UWD is doing there right now. I had planned to do Tanzania, but when Muriel came along, I'm also speaking at the Senior Friends on Thursday. So on Thursday, I will be highlighting new developments, and there's some really exciting ones in Tanzania, and we'll be talking about sweet potatoes and chickens, as well as scholarships. So I hope you can join us for Tanzania on Thursday.
And Julie, I'm going to interrupt just for a minute and say that will be through this same Zoom link on Thursday. Okay. And at the time?
I think it's at 1.
At 1, that's what I was thinking. All right, yeah. Thank you.
Okay. All right, and bear with me a little bit. I usually do this on my computer, but I've discovered my iPad camera is better. So Margaret and I practiced this morning, and hopefully that will go well. So I'm going to screen share. Can you see my oxen?
Yes, we can see your
Yes.
oxen.
I fell in love with these oxen. I don't know why. I wanted them on every slide, but I resisted. So we are going to be talking about leadership in the Unity Women's Desk and how we are trying to support our sisters in leadership. And the Bible verse I selected for this is, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls." From Matthew 11, verses 28 and 29. So the Unity Women's Desk has 6 focus areas. We serve in all the provinces and mission areas and mission provinces of the Moravian Church. And our focus areas, just in case you haven't heard them before: education for women and girls, ending violence against women, health concerns for women and children, overcoming poverty, largely through entrepreneurship and also education, of course, parenting for justice, and women in ministry. So when we work with women's fellowships and women in all the different provinces, we support any programs that they have that help to develop one of these focus areas. So this just shows a map of the areas that we work, and we are organized by region. So the Unitas Fratrum is divided into North America, Europe, Africa, Latin America, and the Caribbean. I have never been anywhere in Latin America, in the Latin America Caribbean region, except I went to Peru as a tourist before I took this job, and I did meet Anna Maria there, some of you will know. And then also I was able to go to Cuba right before the pandemic started. But I've never been able to go to Honduras, Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and Suriname, all these other places. So it's been quite a learning experience for me through Zoom. But I now am really grateful to have made friendships with women in all these different countries. So today we're going to focus, as I said, on Suriname, which is approximately there, and on Honduras. And y'all can interrupt with any questions. I don't know that I can see a raised hand, but maybe Margaret can tell me. I can't see the chat on this iPad thing. So, but feel free to pipe in with any questions. The leadership of the Unity Women's Desk, like I said, we spent a lot of the last year thinking about how we're going to transition from the original leadership. So if you look at this picture, this was from the consultation in 2016. We have all the board members and Patty there. So Muriel Held, Patty, Sally, Erdmuta Frank, and Angeline Swart. And we have just a lot of powerhouse women leading the Unity Women's Desk. And I think some of you will know who some of these people are. The thing that we're grateful for, the fact that everywhere we work, we have at least one really powerhouse leader. Our struggle, our challenge in the next decade is to transition to the next generation of leadership. We've shuffled around some, but it's still mostly people about the same age doing all of the leadership. It's the same struggle the church has everywhere. So we're working really hard to strategically engage younger women who can help us to continue the ministry. Particularly during the pandemic, we've really seen how important the technology piece is to connect us. And so we are often turning to our college students and our young adults who have more of the technology and English skills to help us connect in Latin America, Caribbean, which is really a very diverse and scattered region. So we're trying to change the way our team looks a little bit. Building the UWD team. I think when I read the Bible verse, a lot of us think about a yoke as being something that's more a tool of oppression or a tool of control than a tool of freedom. And I have recently started trying to do yoga for the first time ever regularly. And I was Googling the word yoga because I didn't know what it meant. And I was surprised to find out it actually means yoke, because in yoga, you're trying to link together the body and the mind. So I think that a yoke is a very fitting image for us. I don't think we want to adopt the yoke as our logo, but it is very important to harness the power of all these powerhouse women we have for us to be sure that we're heading in the same direction. And sometimes, as you can well imagine, the women in places like Tanzania and Honduras, the women who have really overcome cultural limitations and expectations for what a woman should be and not be, they're not women who tend to follow the rules. So we have to work together to figure out a structure that we can all keep the Unity Women's Desk going without making anybody too mad at us. So that's why we're all champing a little bit at the bit sometimes. And I do think it's nice that arms around each other function in much the same way, that love can be something that binds us together and gives us a structure that's very pleasant and happy. So, okay, this is a map of the unity of the Latin America Caribbean region. And I just wanted to be sure everybody refreshes your memory about, I can't really point here, but where Honduras and Nicaragua are below Mexico. And then also you can see where Guyana, Suriname, and French Guyana are, because those are places that Muriel will be mentioning today. So the past year, we really spent a lot of time on the Latin America Caribbean region. As I said, it's one that I'm not as familiar with. I think in Winston-Salem, many of you have probably been to Honduras or Nicaragua on work teams, and we've heard a lot about the clinic in Aguas and different things. But it's taken a lot of work to really get a sense of identity as a region of the Moravian Church together. There's some very special challenges in this region. The Caribbean is largely English speaking, but then also we have Suriname where there's Dutch and many other languages, French Guyana where there's French, and then of course the Spanish speaking regions. So there's a lot of struggle overcoming those language barriers and also technology. So these are even more so than in Africa. The regions of Latin America, Caribbean often have very limited access to technology. And so that makes it a real challenge. Muriel, you want to pipe in and tell us a little bit about the first Latin America Caribbean consultation? Muriel?
That was in last year. I don't remember anymore when it was.
It was in June.
In June. We had, it was planned for October 2020 to be held in Jamaica, and everything was set for that. And we were so excited that the first time after 2016 that we could get together. We had the Unity Women's Desk Consultation of 2016 in Suriname. And we had promised each other as Latin America and Caribbean region that we would keep contact. And it didn't work out just because of all the difficulties. Even Suriname, Guyana didn't work out. When I was still in office, I was traveling to Guyana regularly and also some other islands. But when I retired, there was no way to do that because traveling in the Caribbean is very expensive because for most of the travel to visit the islands, you have to go through Miami. So you go up and then you go back down because there are no direct flights. So that makes it very expensive. And finally, we had decided to have this conference in Jamaica because Jamaica was a bit central. And it took a lot of efforts because of, and especially for the Spanish speaking part, because the English speakers have difficulties with Spanish and the Spanish people had difficulties with English. But thanks to our scholarship program, we could have Dorcas Wood, one of our recipients, who was good enough in English to do the translation and who was good enough in internet issues to take part in the discussions for the consultation. And when COVID set in, we had to decide what to do with the consultation. And then we postponed it to last year, and we had the conference via Zoom. That was another challenge, and a lot of people were not so happy with it. But afterwards, we were happy that we did it. We did it and it worked thanks to, I said it already, Dorcas, who did the translation for the Spanish speaking part. It was good. It was very good.
Yeah, we ended up having, I think about 70 women participated in 10 countries. So we had people standing on the beach in Guyana with their cell phones. We had people in Cuba connecting through a Zoom link to Miami with Yoke. So we worked really hard to include as many people as we could. And after 3 hours on Zoom, I thought I was just gonna jump out of my skin and it was too much, but we all got in the rhythm. And after 2 days of Zooming, nobody wanted to leave and they wanted to know when to do it again. So it was a really important time for establishing a sense of identity, I think.
And it was not only via Zoom, because some of the people didn't have Zoom. So when they connected through us, through somebody else via WhatsApp, every IT possibility was used during that conference.
Yeah, it was really, really great. Okay, if we'll focus on Suriname Announcements, we have Muriel here. And Muriel, you can tell us just a little bit. There's a link in the middle of this to the women dancing is actually a beautiful video that's on YouTube. And I'm not going to try to play it today because of time and also the connection's not so great. But some women in Suriname made it. It's a dance lesson that features women from, I believe, 5 different ethnic groups in Suriname. So we can send you the link to that to watch later. So Muriel,
Yes.
you want to tell?
And Julie, I'm going to interrupt just for a minute to say you can send me the link and we'll make sure and put that link up with the recording on the website.
Okay, but it's really beautiful. It's 7 minutes long. Y'all have to watch it. Introduction to Suriname. Okay, Muriel, you want to tell us what you're doing in the boat there?
Suriname, the province Suriname consists of Suriname itself, which you can see on the map, Curaçao, Aruba, and St. Martin, who are district areas, and French Guyana as a mission area is still our responsibility. So when doing Moravian work in the province of Suriname, we had to deal with 5 countries. And Curaçao, Aruba, and St. Martin are pretty much independent. They have pastors, they have schools. Curaçao has a nursery, a children's nursery. And so they are pretty self-supporting and independent. And we had a military coup in 1980. And after that, 1987 till 92, we had an interior war. And that war was the heaviest in the northeastern part of the country, where you see Marowijne, Kommerwijne, and a little bit in the green part. And a lot of the people from that area fled to French Guyana. And they settled in a border city with French Guyana called Saint Laurent, and in the vicinity of Saint Laurent. And during at least 10 years, these people didn't have the possibility to exercise their beliefs, their religion, because we couldn't travel from Paramaribo to the eastern part of the country, so we couldn't go to French Guyana, and the border was closed. We couldn't travel from Paramaribo to French Guyana, not even by plane, because in fact there is no air connection between Suriname and French Guyana. So the sheep, we have oxen and we have sheep in our religion. The sheep were left without, how do you call a herd in English? A herd?
A flock?
The flock was there, but there was nobody to take care of the flock.
Oh, a shepherd.
Shepherd, yes.
Yeah.
And they tried to do whatever they could do themselves. And in the 1990s, we didn't have the possibility of social media like we have it now. We had no WhatsApp and all this kind of stuff. So there was no way to reach the people. So they have done it themselves where they could do the traditional leader. There were some church people who fled also, and so they kept the religion alive. But when the war was settled, the province of Suriname started to take care of the flock in French Guyana with a lot of help of the Zeister Sending Genootschap. That is an assistant group in Holland, in Zeist. They help.
The Dutch Mission Board.
The Dutch, yes, the Dutch mission, with the help of the Moravian Church Foundation, Suriname to start it to take care of the flock in French Guyana. And about 20 years ago, or 15, French Guyana was named a mission area with the responsibility still at the province of Suriname.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yes. And we are happy that our first student, our first recipient of a scholarship of the Unity Women's Desk was given to Saida Turnford. You can see Saida on your left with her newly husband. They are married about 3 years, and the son that was born last year. Saida is supporting our pastor in French Guyana with the youth. There is no Sunday school, but there is a youth group with children and teenagers. And Saida goes about twice a month for a weekend to French Guyana. She lives in Suriname because she didn't succeeded in obtaining French nationality. She fled with her parents also to French Guyana, and she didn't succeed to get French nationality because she was born in Suriname. But she was raised in French Guyana, and her mother was working in the church.
At the moment, I am one of the only native French Dutch teachers in Suriname. Many people keep approaching me to teach them, I would love to have a more professional approach to my teaching because my formal education was to be a music teacher. This summer, I'm already planning on giving summer classes to interested members of the congregation I attend. So she's working on a master's now in theology, in education, and she has a music background. So she's a very powerful help for the pastor there to develop more connections with the church in French Guiana.
Thank you, Julie. And this is Claudia Burgzorg, our in fact, third scholarship recipient. She is an educator. She has an education degree that is almost as a master degree. It is the only reason why it is not sufficient to be called a master is because the research period is not long enough to call it a master. But she has a degree in education, and she works in the public sector. But salaries are very low, and she wasn't able to pay for her study at a theological seminary, and so her pastor has told her about the Unity Women's Desk and encouraged her to request a scholarship, and we were happy, very, very happy to give her the scholarship. So she is finishing her education degree, I think, in 2 months. And she is doing a theological study at the theological seminary in Suriname. She is in her 2nd year. On the picture, you see her in the left and above. And the picture downstairs that on the right is our treasurer, and the left is our financial administrator, and in the middle is Claudia Burgzorg.
And on the left, she's being inducted, you wrote, for her service.
As a church servant.
As a church servant, yeah, in her congregation.
Yes,
So,
and her congregation is about 40 kilometers south of Paramaribo. So every time when she has colleges and lessons in the theological seminary, she has to come to Paramaribo. And with COVID, it was a real challenge because public transportation wasn't going. And at the beginning of COVID, our internet possibilities were not good enough to do a lot by internet. But with the scholarship, she can handle things much better. And this is our 2nd scholarship recipient, Claudia Kiowa. 21 years old, in secondary school, a little bit late because for 2 or 3 years she couldn't go to school. She was living in Aruba with her father. Her mother is a Maroon and her father is an Indonesian. And her mother is living in the interior of Suriname. And her father thought it better for her and her brother to live in Aruba for education purposes. And then her father died. And she couldn't get immigration papers to stay in Aruba, so they couldn't go to school. After many trials of getting the papers, they had to leave Aruba to come back to Paramaribo. When her father died, the reverend of Aruba took them in her house, and she took care of their foster mother. It was very sad when they had to leave for Suriname because there was no way where would they stay. And so they were brought to a boarding home from the Moravian, Claudia in a girls' boarding home, and her brother in a house for boys. Claudia is in the last class of secondary school of the Graaf van Zinzendorf School. And she passed last year the exams to go to high school. But she wanted to finish the secondary school first. So in October, for sure, she will go to high school. And with the scholarship, a lot, as she said herself, a lot of stress and a lot of burden is taken away from her foster mother, because she was paying for the boarding house. She was paying for everything for both children, the school, and all that. So now at least the cost from the boarding house is being paid with the scholarship that she received this year.
Okay, Margaret, I'm gonna ask you, it's 5 till, and I have information to share with you about our scholarship recipients in Honduras, and they're wonderful, amazing women I'd like to talk about. But since Muriel's with us, I'm wondering if we should just stop and let people have questions for Muriel about Suriname. I think it's really, really powerful to learn about things like the different immigration problems that I know nothing about. I think most of us don't realize how much immigration is an issue for people's everyday lives in the Caribbean region, how difficult those kinds of things are for them. So since Muriel's here, should we just move on over to questions and save Honduras for another day? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, I think that's a good way to start. And also friends can remember that you're coming back via Zoom on Thursday at 1 p.m. this same link, and senior friends are welcoming everybody who would like to attend. So there's another opportunity to continue, but I agree. It's a good time for questions for our friend.
Okay, let me see if I can stop screen sharing. Okay. So any questions? I mean, basically, we're trying really hard to engage and get to know our scholarship students. We're not just giving them money and not having a relationship. We're spending a lot of time and energy and prayer developing relationships, because we're counting on them to be the future of the Unity Women's Desk. So any questions for Muriel about anything in Suriname or Latin America, Caribbean?
Julie, this is Beth. I was just wondering about the qualifications for receiving a scholarship. Do the women need to be Moravian or affiliated with the Moravian Church? And just what are some of those requirements or qualifications?
Yes, and this
a scholarship.
We're moving to all online applications this year so that we can process everything better. And the requirements are for university, they do need to be Moravian women if they're adults at the university level. We serve a number of non-Moravians, girls who are orphans or Muslims or have been brought to our attention if they attend a Moravian school, or if they are under the wing of a Moravian pastor. So we have a number of applications for people who we're really supporting the Moravian pastor who feels called to work with the Maasai tribe, for example. So not every secondary school student has to be Moravian, but there has to be a definite strong Moravian connection. But if they're at the university level, they really need to be Moravian. And we do ask for pastor recommendations and confirmation from the provincial leaders that they are engaged with the Moravian Church.
Julie, maybe you could tell us the total number of scholarships given Worldwide Unity, and that there is a process of evaluation upon application, that you have a committee that works on defining what this woman needs and how we might help.
So since the Unity Women's Desk was established in 2011, we've given over 270 scholarships. And this year, right now, we currently have 105 underway. And once we give them a scholarship, we continue with them until they complete the level that they got the scholarship for. So through their secondary school, and then they can reapply if they want to go on, for example, to university. And what else did you ask?
No, just worldwide, that there is a process of application and certification from the Unity Women's Desk. And it's good to know for Suriname that we will support these sisters until they finish what they can do to support the ministry they're involved in.
Yeah, so we are organized by the 4 regions, and within those regions, we have kind of an allowance for each province of the Moravian Church and mission province and mission area. So currently, we give $3,000 of scholarships per year per province is kind of the baseline. We have special funds on top of that. We have nursing scholarships that don't count towards the provincial allotment. We have some women in ministry money that we can do additional university level scholarships on top of that. And we also have a new medical for doctors. We have our first medical student. We're partnering with the Border World Mission to fund a Honduran woman who is studying in Nicaragua. So we go through the provincial coordinator, and in each of the provinces, we limit the scholarships per province so that we have money for everywhere in the world. So it's spread kind of thin. We've had great fundraising the last year, but there's so many women, and we usually give $1,000 a year for university level studies. And in most countries, that does not cover everything at all. So, you know, in Kenya, we have funded CC Tesh. I know you're familiar with Ray of Orphanage there. In Tanzania, we have a lot of students at the Kisanji Seminary, and they get $1,000, but they still struggle to pay for their living expenses and things like that. So, so that's how we go per province. How much have we already helped that province per year? And we kind of keep checking that way so that we stay in balance.
And we do evaluate, because every quarter of the year or half year, they have to send in their marks. That's how you call it in English. How they have done in school, and you have to apply for the time you want to have a scholarship. So it is not automatically that you get a scholarship because you are in a 4 years program, that you will get a scholarship for all the 4 years. You have to reapply, and we have to go through your performance at school to say, yes, you can get another scholarship.
So when people send in their applications, which are now online, they all come to me, and I check to be sure they have completed the essays, they've completed all of the requirements, they have sent me their grades, and then they get a recommendation from the pastor and from the provincial coordinator. Then the advisory board discusses them, and the advisory board makes all the decisions. So that's Muriel, and then from Europe, it's Edmuta Frank, and then Rachel Wally from Africa, and Blair Couch from North America. So they vote on all the scholarships, and then we go about figuring out the best way to wire the money to the women. And starting this year, we are also requiring all of our scholarship recipients to give us 10 hours of volunteer work. That can be as simple as participating in a Facebook group to connect with other scholarship recipients. We're working hard to build a network between these younger women. It can be like Dorcas, our superstar in Honduras, who speaks good English and technology skills and has been helping us with many things. Dorcas interviewed our medical student because I don't speak Spanish, and I couldn't get good information about Dominga, the medical student, to share with people her story. So for her volunteer work, Dorcas interviewed Dominga, and the two of them had never heard of each other, but they formed a really strong bond through this process of one of them interviewing the other one about their education and their scholarship. They're both in the medical field. One is training to be a nurse, one is training to be a doctor. And then Dorcas was able to share the information with me for a presentation. So the volunteer work can be for them to help whatever their provincial coordinator needs, or to help other students apply. Where all the applications are online, they can do it on their cell phone, which is actually easier than dealing with paper that has to be scanned and uploaded and downloaded and all that. So their volunteer work might be helping somebody else apply. But we're trying to actively engage them as soon as they receive a scholarship in helping us to help other girls and women be educated. And then at the end of every semester, they have to send us an update. They have to tell me a highlight from the semester and a challenge from the semester, their grades for the semester, and just update all of their demographic information. And those have been so helpful to me to understand, you know, how big a struggle technology is for them, how much money they're paying for data for their phones, because their phones are their computers at the university level. So we're trying to do all of those things to keep up with them and to really be accountable to the people who are supporting them. It helps us to learn more about them and make these connections, and to go ahead and tell them, you're a part of our team.
I'd also like for the people in the class to know that, and I'm sure they still do this, when I was with the Provincial Women's Board, we were able to choose someone in our province for a scholarship. The student was at Appalachian at that time, and she was going into a social ministry, which was the requirements we had. And the Northern Province also has a person too. So I think we should know that. It sounds like a lot of money, Julie. How are you funded?
And
So
as part of that question, Barbara Strauss asked if there's a fundraising endowment for scholarships.
Yes, so we have, Patty led the Capital Campaign Drive in 2016, and they were much more successful than they had even hoped to be. They raised about $400 for the Capital Campaign Drive, and all of our money is invested with the Moravian Ministries Foundation. As I said, we have a number of named scholarships. So there are some that are only for university scholarships, some that are only for nursing, for medical. We have a Linebach fund for entrepreneurship, for microloans, which we haven't talked about today, and several other funds. So those remain invested, and we need to take some distributions from them. And we, when we receive gifts from people, if it's much money, I always contact them and ask, would you like it designated for a particular fund? And we, if it's not designated, then we have a formula the board sets every year, what percentage goes to the different needs, depending on how everything is balanced financially. And I mean, because the stock market has done so well, and we have continued to have just extremely generous support from many congregations like Home Church and the Women's Fellowship and the Candle Tea, and in Canada and in the Northern Province as well. And also this year we received $2,500 from the Swiss Mission Board for a special program with Maasai girls, and then we received money. The British women have been doing a fundraiser also for the Maasai education programs that we're doing. So all of these things, the board sets all the financial parameters, and we invested in the funds until we need it. But we've been giving a lot of scholarships, but we continue to increase our investments largely because the stock market isn't so well. But yeah, and so we have fundraisers, from time to time. We haven't done another capital campaign drive, but we do depend 100% on donations at this time. Not 100%. We get $15,000 for administration from the Unity Board. We answer to the Unity Board of the Moravian Church. So they do give us $15,000 per year for administration. We would like to apply for some more grants. We got a grant from the Winston-Salem Women's Fund this year for a program for Estamos Unidos and the Moravian Mission. The Moravian Ministries Association gave us a grant for Lorena Gray has a feeding program she's just started in in the coastal region of Honduras. We would like to apply for more grants, but we've never been audited, and we have to pay to be audited in order to apply for the major grants. So that's a process we're in the process of considering if that's worth doing.
And as we wrap up, Julie, I think it's good to see if there are any last questions for Muriel, and people can remember that they can join this link again at 1 p.m. on Thursday to continue.
Margaret.
Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to say that Julie prepared for the Sunday school class what I had asked all of our participants or our presenters to do. Service, generosity, a little about the organization. And hopefully next Sunday when we're together, we can give those out. They're in my box at the church.
Thank you, Mally. They will be physically available. And also when we add the recording and the link to the dance, we can also add that information as well for online.
And that would be very good. And my circle met this week, and I shared, this is just an aside, the sheet that we received last Sunday on diversity. And they wanted to know if that would be shared online too, that for prayers and generosity in connection to 200th anniversary.
May I ask a question?
Please.
Julie.
Wait just a minute. Can you answer that, Margaret?
I'm sorry?
Can you answer if the informational sheet last Sunday in the bulletin on diversity can be put online for people who are at church?
Absolutely.
Okay, Paul?
And Julie, may I ask what would be necessary to facilitate an audit?
Prayers for me.
Yes.
Treasurer. And I've talked to Robin, the Southern Province, treasurer, a couple of times about getting an estimate. She's going to see what it would, she's going to ask the people who do the Moravian Church Southern Province audit, what it would cost to do our organization. So we really do, at 10 years, we really do need to be audited, but it's, I think it's probably, I've heard $10,000. So, it's a substantial amount of money and time, but there are lots of foundations who fund girls' schools in Africa and different things that I can't even apply for those kind of things until we have an audit. It's just a requirement, but it's hard to plunk down money. But I need to get firm estimates.
Muriel, thank you so much for being with us today.
So I'm going to interrupt to say that Fran has a question. And Fran, I'll ask you to unmute first, please.
Muriel, I like your hat. I remember seeing when I was in hair bar. But tell me, what kind of support do you get in the Saints of Fellowship on a weekly and daily basis where you work? 'Cause
So
it must be sometimes very
Fran, it is very difficult to hear you. It sounds like, first of all, you're complimenting Muriel's hat, and second of all, you're asking what kind of support she gets.
Right.
Could work better now with Fran's video off.
So, and thank you, Tom. And Fran agreed that that was the question. So Muriel?
I didn't get the question. Can you
She
repeat
wanted,
it?
so she wanted to know about your hat, which I know you told about at the beginning, but if you could just remind people briefly, and then the type of support that you're able to get.
Okay, the hat, and in fact, it is part of a whole dress. But this is just the hat, and this the fabric with the prints on it, hearts with the arrow going through it. It is a message that the woman who wears it is single, and men are allowed to go after her. That is the fabric. And then another thing that has to do with the culture is the way that it is being tied. This one, if you look at the back, it is just, it doesn't have too many issues on it because a woman who is very, how do you call it? Simple. A woman who is very simple, she doesn't have a lot of smart and special things. But if you really want to tie it in a way, telling men that they can come after you, then you have another way of pointing out these parts. Then you have one that is very coming out that says, wait for me on the corner. Or you can walk behind me till I'm home. And this way of messaging started during slavery times when the slaves were not allowed to tell what they were thinking legally. They were not allowed to look out for a husband or for a man themselves. So they will give the message to whoever they want without the masters knowing what the message was.
And Jenny said the hat's like a choir ribbon for the single sisters. So thank you. And then in terms of support you're able to get from the Unity Women's Desk.
Well, the support that we get, the scholarship is a big support to our people, but for our organization, it's volunteer work. Maybe we don't really get support, but it is still support because we learn a lot of each other. And my are very, very, very much improved. So we're happy with those kind of support.
Margaret, I think
the biggest challenge where we haven't seen how we can do that is for traveling and meeting people, because you cannot do everything via internet. Even in Suriname itself, going to the several churches to promote the work of the Unity Women's Desk, we have to do that all out of our own pocket. And because our pocket is small, that work is not being done properly. It's not being done the way we want. And especially if you think of, we're celebrating 10 years of the Unity Women's Desk, and in 5 years after the consultation that was held in Paramaribo, then sometimes I'm not satisfied with the results that we got, but this is all we could.
We thank you for your honest response. It helps us to know. And Graham, we'll invite you to talk, and then we're going to need to say goodbye to each other.
I was just going to say that I think you all should know that Muriel holds the distinction of being the first woman on the board of the Moravian Church Foundation, which owns businesses in Suriname, Aruba, Curacao, and other places. And she got on because I had to get off, and she took my place. I reached age 70, and that made me a has-been. And that's when you were elected, Muriel. The first woman.
So
That's great to know. I didn't know that. And Mary Pachagila is on it.
Who is elected?
You.
Who, me? I don't know that.
Moravian
sure?
Church, Moravian Church Foundation.
You were
Not-
elected. Graham
not
is saying
before.
that happened before. When he went off, then you were the first woman to have that role. So
I don't know that.
Not now, Muriel, before.
I was not in the church foundation. I think it was in Anhiralal.
Okay.
Oh, maybe it was. I beg
Yeah,
your pardon.
Anhiralal from Suriname.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Your names sounded too much alike.
Anhiralal held.
And so, friends, I invite us, let's take a minute to pray. And please remember, if you would like to continue to hear more about the Unity Women's Desk, you're welcome to join Senior Friends at the same Zoom link on Thursday at 1 p.m. Let's pray together. Gracious God, we thank you for the work that has been done, that is being done, and that will be done through the Unity Women's Desk. We're aware of the needs as well as the successes, both in Muriel's life and in the life of the organization. We pray for your guidance with the organization, with Muriel, and with us going forward to hear your call and to respond to your call. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, everybody.
Thank y'all. And when we send the link for the video, please just take 7 minutes to watch it. It's amazing. Muriel helped to get it organized. It's a dance lesson. And then I'll also send a link to a Honduran pastor who does her own bio in 5 minutes. It's in Spanish, but just watch the facial expressions and the places that she shows you, and just know that she's a Moravian pastor. She's Garifuna, showing you her life, and it's well worth the 5 minutes, even if you don't understand Spanish.
Julie, I have a quick question.
Yep.
I live in High Point, and I'm over in Winston-Salem on a fairly infrequent basis. And I have tried to touch base with you at your office, and I was wondering if you could give me some idea what your hours are there. And I'm assuming you're there at Cedarhurst still. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, for the past year, I've only gone in like once a week, but I am pretty much in the office but it's always best if you call me or email before you go. So Monday, I don't have really regular hours right now. I can meet you anytime.
And
I'm
Julie,
going
why
to
don't
start-
you tell us your email address?
Okay, it's julie.unitywomen@gmail.com. And I'll give Margaret my cell phone to send you as well. And I'm going to start having regular hours Monday and Wednesday from 10 to 3 for sure. Be there. And then I'm there a lot of other times. We've moved upstairs though.
That helps. Thank you.
Yep. I'm happy to meet anytime.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. That was wonderful. Thank you, Julie
Yes.
and Muriel.
Thank you.
Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, thank you, Margaret.
Absolutely. Thank you to everybody, especially to Muriel for joining us and to Julie for all that you've done.
Thank you.